Welcome to the Unraveling Shaltazar podcast. Welcome, Jeffrey. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Mark. I'm doing well. I'm glad to be here as always and see what it is we're going to chat about today as we bring forth and unravel the wisdom of Shaltazar.
Great. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. The message that I settled upon for today is one called Separation or Unity. The choice is yours. It's an older message recorded in 2017, but as we found that with all the Shaltazar messages, they seem very topical and timely for what's going on with our planet right now. I guess it's a longer message. And I suppose the reason that it sort of resonated with me was there's this sense of unrest in the world. There's still kind of a feeling of divisiveness out there, and I'm curious about what you feel Shaltazar is saying when they talk about this energy of intensity and the separation from source and our minds bringing us into more into a thinking and analytical approach to what we're witnessing versus coming at it from our heart. And the kind of the crux of this message, I think, is that they're saying that, we have a choice. We have a choice between separation or unity, and it's our choice to make. And I think the thing that kind of stuck with me, and the thing that I'm most curious about, is it mentions light workers, and I think maybe we could, for the audience, define what a light worker is. I think we're light workers. I think if you are a light worker, you think you're a light worker. You're here to help bring more light and more unity and more consciousness to mankind. And I think that's kind of what we're trying to do with our podcasts. But it says this energy shift is more for those who have not yet awakened to the new way. And that brought this image to mind of kind of like these two sides of the coin, where there's the few who are awakened and trying to bring more light into the world, and then there are those who aren't necessarily fighting against bringing more light into the world, but are just kind of unaware of what's going on and aren't conscious of their roles in this great awakening. And so that's where I'm jumping in, I guess.
Yeah. A lot of stuff there. That message, and just for the listeners so that they're aware, Mark picks a message and he lets me know usually the day of or the day before what that message is. And I listen to it because although I'm the channeler of these messages, there are 100 of them right now. And, being an old guy at 68, I can't remember them all. So I just take a few minutes and re-listen to sort of see what's in there to get ready for, some of the unraveling of that wisdom. And you're right, that's an older message. And it's sort of a takeoff on one of the first messages from Shaltazar called Oneness. And you and I have talked about oneness because it really is around that separation and unity, the separation or oneness. And so this is sort of like a part 2 of that. And it did come forward, before obviously the challenges of COVID-19, but just as if it was predicting what we would be going through. Because I think this infighting, this divisiveness, this back and forth, this right, the wrong, the people that are for this or for that, the lockdowns, the masks, all of that is creating this infighting. With regard to your comment, we definitely are the workers of the light. I consider anyone who is in a more awakened state, a more conscious state, is someone who wants to bring more of that consciousness to the world. those people have been around forever and ever. The more famous ones, of course, are the masters that have dawned the planet before Buddha, Krishna, Jesus, Moses, Muhammad. All of those have come forth in a more or evolved to a more enlightened state and trying to bring others along. And so to that degree, I think there are just a lot of more ordinary citizens who are acting in the light worker category. And of course, the object is to move us to the tipping point where more and more people get it. And I think that definitely is the purpose of our podcasts and the work that you and I do together. The interesting thing about this message, and I listened to it this morning, is that it struck me as that it has a whole bunch of levels. It definitely has a very divine message, which is the unity of the source and the separation or the duality of the human being, and how we are somewhat sentenced to this duality, and in such we are more separated. But the more human level is that we do have this choice, and that things that we do, things that we say, things that we feel can either bring us closer to a sense of unity or can move us more in a place of separation. It's like that saying that says you can be alone, but you don't have to be lonely. And I think that sort of speaks to the fact that if you are more in your unity consciousness, and there are several messages about the unity consciousness from Shaltazar. One of them I remember them talking about being in the moment and realizing that moment is shared with a whole bunch of other people having the same moment all over the planet, even though your sunrise might be someone else's sunset, that we are all collectively having the same moment, often separated by space or time zones or things like that. So separation is a part of the human experience, but it's also a choice. It's also a choice. And so I think what Shaltazar is encouraging us to do is move more to unity. I don't have the text in front of me. You do. I think there's one point where they talk about the things that they say are separation, and they talk about the things that they say are unity. And that always helps me understand it a little bit more.
Sure. I have it right here. Excuse my paper rattling. Yes, that is the question you must ask yourself often. It is time if you choose to get a deeper understanding of separateness or unity. We explained to you before how fear is separateness, greed is separateness, doubt is separateness, the mind is separateness, the ego is separateness, judgment is separateness, destructive criticism is separateness, blame is separateness. And we have also explained how faith is oneness, feeling is oneness, courage is oneness, love is oneness, empathy is oneness, acceptance is oneness, understanding is oneness.
Right. And I hope that this adds a dimension for the listeners, because if you are listening to us and you take this literally, you could easily think that, oh, well, I'm with a group of people, I'm more in unity. I'm alone, I'm more in separation. But there's a subtlety that Shaltazar talks about, because when they talk about fear and doubt being separation, you see that there's a pullback. There's a pullback. And even you and I, as we do this podcast, sometimes there's this sense of unity where what you're saying is just so in sync with what I'm thinking, and what I'm saying is so in sync with what you're thinking. And that's the oneness that they're talking about. That's the unity that they're talking about. And so it's not about, even when we're trying to surface an insight, and you've got a point of view and I've got a point of view, that doesn't mean that we're separate. It just means that we have two different points of view. So we can come together, we can come at 2 points of view from a place of separateness, or we can come to a place of 2 points of view from a place of unity. And, where I'm going with all of this is unity and the unity consciousness and coming more from oneness is the answer to stopping civil strife, the answer to stopping armed conflicts, the answer to stopping war. Because we can have two opposing cultures, we can have two opposing countries without having that separateness, without having that fear, doubt. I mean, read the list again. So I highly encourage the listeners to listen to that message, separation or unity, the choice is yours, or go to my website and print out the PDF copy and look at that list and start dissecting it. Unfortunately, in the message, I read it as quickly as you did, but I want people to ponder how is fear separation, how is doubt, and we could pull a few of those out randomly and start talking about how they are separate or how they are unity, and so we want to move to more of those feelings where there's a sense of being united. And I want to repeat again, that doesn't mean that we both have to have the same point of view.
Right. When you were talking, an image kind of came to me that when we're talking about unity, I tend to think of we all look at ourselves as individuals. We all look different, right? We live in different places, like you mentioned. That other message you were talking about that kind of connects to this message is finding your unity consciousness.
Thank you.
I just happen to have it in my little file here. Another long message dating back to 2016, so it predates the message we're talking about today. Very similar topics, though. And when we're talking about, we're all experiencing this moment in time together. Everyone on the planet is experiencing this particular moment in time in their own way, in their own place, through their own senses and what have you. Excuse me. But the idea of unity to me means that we are all part of one unified whole. And the image, I guess, that came to me was the idea of a beach that's got billions upon billions of grains of sand, and each individual's grain of sand is an individual that's unique to itself. But on the beach, we're all one. We're all part of the same. And that I just opened my file, and that other message that relates to the message for today is called "Finding Your Unity Consciousness," and it was recorded actually a year before today's message was recorded. So they are connected, but separated by a year. And that what you had mentioned about the finding your unity consciousness message was this idea that that everybody on the planet is experiencing this moment in time right now, but in their own country, in their own place, in their own time, through their own senses. But we're all of us on this whole planet are experiencing this particular moment in time at this particular moment. And so that image that kind of came to me was the idea of a beach, right? A beach looks like a solid surface of sand, but it's comprised of billions and billions of individual grains of sand, all different from one another. In the physical sense, separate from one another. They're not bonded together. They're lying next to each other, but they're all part of the same whole that is the beach. And I guess that's kind of how I view this idea of oneness is that it's even though we're all individuals and we all look different, and we live in different places, and we're all separate from each other physically, we're all part of the same beach.
Excellent. Beautiful analogy, beautiful comparison. I think that drives it home, because if you are coming from your left brain, it's really hard to understand this message. And so realizing that that beach, although those grains of sand, as you say, are very different, there is that unity of it being a beach. And you could imagine if the grains of sand were fighting with each other, you wouldn't have the smoothness of the beach, right? And I love walking the beach.
Mm-hmm.
And can you imagine you're walking along and all of a sudden you fall into the center of the earth because these grains of sand were having a divide, we're having a fight. Something you said, was interesting when you talked about that other message about the unity consciousness. You said they're connected but separated by time. So I don't know if you realize that you use that phrase, which is really kind of interesting, and that's sort of what this separation unity is all about. It's look at it at the subtlety of it, not at the definitive, very logical. The other thing that came to mind is I think COVID-19 is a wonderful example of that connectedness and yet separation, because I don't think there's any place on the planet that is exempt from this. Some places are, that are sparsely populated are feeling less of the effect. The more populated countries are having greater challenges, but everybody on the planet, certainly that is connected to communication and to what's going on in the world, is connected by COVID, right? Which is kind of interesting because it is that connectedness that can cause the challenge, that can cause the virus to come, right? So to a certain degree, COVID is connecting us, but is asking us to separate, because when we're separate, when we're wearing our mask, and so this whole dichotomy, this whole paradox of separateness and unity, of oneness, is really, I think, what Shaltazar is asking us to think about. How we are connected and how we are separate, and to build the bridges of connectivity, right? The internet has done it, but the internet has also spawned that separation because of social media, because of different people putting up their opinions and creating the infighting and the comments. It's so fascinating. Every once in a while, I'll read the comments, on news or whatever. And it's like people are really getting miserable and ornery and disrespectful, right? And that's separation.
Right.
And so here it is, the internet has the ability to bring us all together, and then the comments seem to separate us, and people are unfollowing each other and dissing each other in comments. So I truly believe that where Shaltazar says the choice is ours, they are saying, what do you want? Do you want more unity in your world, or do you want more separation? And, I hate to predict dire consequences, but if as a humanity we choose more separation, I think we're on a slippery slope for humanity, and we would not be the first civilization to disappear. Shaltazar said that Lemuria and Atlantis went through this same energy of great potential for change, and they refused to change. So, I'm going to highly suggest to listeners, look at the ways where you can become more unified, more in unity, more at one with yourself, and then bring that forth. And that's the challenge for the light workers, because we've been doing a little bit more work on that unity consciousness, on feeling good about ourselves. And I think that's really important in this message. Shaltazar in other messages says that unity needs to start with us. We need to learn to love the parts of us we don't like. We need to think of our wholeness and our completeness. And when you become the beach and all of your grains of sand get along with each other, then you can allow that energy to move forth into humanity.
Great explanation. So it's a unification of, all change starts with the individual, right? So it's a unification of our care for ourselves, and it's a unification of our mind and our heart. And once we can get to that place of self-unity, then we can spread that unity to the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, work on your wholeness, work on your physical, mental, emotional, spiritual well-being. See yourself as a whole, complete person, and from that place of feeling unified, right? Not banishing the parts of you don't like, not being ashamed of what you failed, but being okay with all of you. Then I think we will be able to move more to, and if more of us do that, then we'll move to more of that in the world. And I think that's what this message is all about, to focus on what connects us, not on what divides us.
Great. Fabulous. Very good. Well, we're out of time. What a great way to end. Great advice for everybody. And I hope these messages help people institute some change in their lives and help this world on a path of positive evolution, not one of de-evolution. So thank you,
Excellent.
Jeffrey.
Well, and thank you for doing this with me, Mark, because that's our small part to bring a little bit more unity into the world. So thank you so much for that topic, and thank you for doing this series with me.
Oh, you're welcome. I enjoy it. Tune in next week to see what we come up with next week.
Bye for now.
Take care. If you have any questions about the Master Teachings of Shaltazar, we invite you to submit them to Jeffrey at jeffreyeisen.com, and we will make your question the topic of a future episode.